I'm Stacy Corwin, and God uniquely created me to be a part of His mission. In 2012, many times I'd find myself driving by the jail after dropping my daughter off at school, and I started to just feel this call, like God was saying, I'm going to send you there. And at first I thought it was kind of funny because that could mean a lot of things. But every time I would drive by the jail, it would get a little stronger, and I just kept feeling very strongly that God was asking me to go there. I remember one Thursday night during church, I just felt very strongly God saying, now's the time, you need to take the next step. I signed up for the training, and I showed up having no idea what I was gonna do. And at the end of the night, a woman beelined to me, Linda Davies. She came over and she said, do you have any idea how you're gonna serve? And I thought it must have been obvious that I did not. So I said, no, I don't. And she said, well, we have a program called the Alpha. We have modified the Alpha program for presentation in jails, and we'd love to have you part of our team. A couple of weeks later, I had my first night in the jail ministry, and I remember walking in there just thinking, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And I wasn't nervous, I was just more confused. I couldn't believe that God was calling me to do this. Where God really shows up is in your deficiencies, because that's where He works, that's where He shows off. And you know, when I go into that jail, it's like I'm a different person. I always sit in my car before I walk in, and you leave your cell phone, you leave the world behind. You walk through this series of doors, they lock behind you loud, and you go through a corridor, they lock you in, they unlock another door, you go back a little farther, you're locked in, and you head back there, and then they take us into our room where we're going to receive the inmates who choose to participate that night and present the program. A lot of the questions that we will get are things like, you know, can I be forgiven? I know what I've done is so terrible, and I don't know if there really is forgiveness for what I've done. And we encourage them, yes, absolutely. There's no way you could do something so great that God doesn't love you. And there's nothing you could do that isn't covered by the blood of Christ. And we tell them that over and over. I was helping this one lady right after she got out. And when she got out of jail, she literally had no place to go. She did not have a roof over her head. And she told me she was getting out and that she needed to find a place to live. And I thought, I don't know where to begin. So I went to Joshua House. That's the organization that I represent when I go in there on Monday nights. And I told them the situation, and they agreed to put her up in an extended stay hotel for 1 week while I looked for other options. And I said, well, we've got 7 days, and I just committed to praying that God would present an answer. And I asked people in the church if they knew of anybody, and God revealed a family at White River who themselves are living missionally in a way that just astounds me. And they agreed to let her come and live with them in their home. Now, that was an answer to prayer, but there were 2 nights between when her extended stay was covered and when they would be ready to let her move in. So there were 2 nights that were not accounted for. $150 at this hotel is what it would have taken to extend that stay. And I remember thinking, okay, $150. God just wants me to take care of that. And all day I prayed about it, and I just said, God, you would not bring us that far to get hung up over 2 nights. So God, you just have to help me convince my husband that this is what we're supposed to do. So I went home, I had prepared my argument for him, and on the table was a card from a friend of mine in Texas. And I opened it up, and there was a card and a check for $150. And in the memo, it just said, for God's purpose. And I called my friend up and I said, you just have no idea how perfect this is. And I told her what we were going to use it for, and she said, well, I walked around for several days with that number on my heart, and I just kept thinking, what can be done with $150? That's such, you know, she said, I didn't think I was going to even make a difference. And then she said, one day I was on my way to work, and God just said, go put it in the mail right now. For me, living missionally means just paying attention to what God is asking you to do, the next step that He is asking you to take. And to do that, you have to listen You have to quiet yourself before him and just pay attention. For me, it was a voice as I drove by the jail. I'm going to send you there. I'm going to send you there. But then he presented multiple signs that pointed me in that direction. But I had to learn to pay attention and just take those little steps of obedience because they're all part of his bigger plan.